It's time for Film Threat Episode 2, Electric Boogaloo. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am that Chris Gore, also known as Chris Gore, and I'm joined, as always, by my cohort in crime and criticism, Anthony Ray Bench.
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah. So look, it's been over a week now since the filmthreat.com has launched. And I don't know, I'm just extremely pleased with the reactions. I feel like it's weird. Like when we talked about, first bringing the website back, I kind of felt like, I'm going to reference a recent movie. So you guys know. I kind of felt like Luke Skywalker on that island, and Rey comes up to hand him the lightsaber, and you see this sort of pained expression on his face, like knowing if he accepts that lightsaber, he is accepting the destiny that comes with that, the adventure, the responsibility. And that's kind of how I felt like bringing Film Threat back was like, if I do this, I'm freaking gonna do this. I'm gonna do the shit out of it. That's what I'm gonna do. So
just when you thought you were out, they pulled you back in.
It's all of that. I wish I could do a cinematic montage of how I felt. Well, it's weird when you're a nerdy film fan. Your whole life, everything is kind of connected, or you could connect almost everything to an experience that you've seen in a movie, right?
Yeah.
So I wish I could do like a montage of all these things where they kind of drag characters back in sort of begrudgingly. And then they're into it. That's me right now.
You're talking to somebody who almost talks exclusively in movie quotes. Yeah. That's my language.
Well, that's kind of the culture now, is that right? I mean, I'll bet you and I could make a bet, and we could, like, who can go long enough. You could communicate throughout your day. You're getting coffee, you're driving, you're talking to your friends, but nothing you say is original. Everything you say is a quote right out of a movie.
Yep.
I'll bet that that would be an interesting contest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How would we enforce that?
I don't know. We'd have to have some monitor, right?
Yeah.
And there'd be some
neutral party.
There'd also have to be some deep cuts in there, right? Of like movies, just so you could actually communicate and get like, I don't know. Although if I was going to order a tuna fish sandwich, I might say, hold the tuna fish between your knees. What is that line from? See, now I don't know the exact quote. It's from that Jack Nicholson movie that I don't remember at this moment.
Was it older Jack Nicholson or younger Jack Nicholson?
It was younger Jack Nicholson, which is why I'm spacing on it. All right. We should cut this part out because it makes me look stupid. But actually, I don't care. So look, we've got a lot of movies to talk about. I know that like on the first episode, we were basically playing catch up, discussing a lot of films from 2016 and some of the films that opened recently in this year. So we're going to be doing that again. So my apologies, but we're trying to play catch up here. We're going to rapid fire go through a lot of films. Anthony and I are going to talk about it, and then we're going to have our very first DVDuesday. Our very first DVDuesday. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait.
How many people do you think have come up to you and asked you to bring that back?
Well, it's every time I go to a convention, that's what I get. But what I love about it is that nobody pronounces the correct pronunciation has always been DVDuesday, like Tuesday, DVDuesday. But for some reason, when people see it in text, their brain says DVDuesday. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully we have a theme song.
It's like a more obscure version of like. Have you heard the Berenstein theory?
No.
Like the books, the Berenstein Bears.
Of course
and stuff
I
like
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some people from their childhood remember it as the Berenstein Bears, and it's always been the Berenstein Bears.
Oh wow! It's like people that say milk.
Yeah.
People that say milk or wash.
Or
I'm going to wash my clothes.
Have you heard about?
I don't know. Which one is correct? Which one is incorrect?
I do milk and I do.
But wash. I've heard people say milk. Milk is a thing.
That's new to me.
Yeah. But wash I've heard many times.
Have you heard the one about Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam?
No.
Yeah, that's a whole thing on the internet. Like, people can look it up. But anyways.
Well, it's interesting talking about like experiences that you like connect to movies. It seems like whenever I'll talk about a personal experience, it's weird that in my head I always connect it to some sort of like movie.
Yeah.
So when my daughter was born years ago, I remember I saw my daughter get born. Mm-hmm. And I have to say it was pretty gross. And the way I would describe it to friends is that it was sort of like the scene with John Hurt in Alien where the chest burster comes out of his stomach, except there was more blood. So that's what it's like. And now with that image in your mind, let's talk about movies. Let's talk about movies that we've seen, opinions, and let's get into it. A film that I have not yet seen, I am dying to see, that you saw, Anthony, is The Green Room.
Yes. With
Captain
Anton Yelchin.
Yes.
Is that how you say his last
Anton
name?
Yelchin, yes.
Yelchin, yes. And Patrick Stewart
Yes.
and Imogen Poots, who has the best name ever.
All right, well, tell me about this movie because it's been on my must-see list for a while. I have not had a chance to see it.
It's about a punk band, and the music in it is awesome. Like I'm pretty sure the actors like actually played the music in it, so it's all punk rock, and you and I love punk rock. So they get this gig in like the middle of nowhere, and they find out that it's a very like racist, like white, like neo-Nazi club.
Ugh.
So they kind of do this thing where, you know, they kind of basically say Nazi punks fuck off, and then they play the song.
Oh wow!
Like,
wait, the actual original song.
Yeah, the original song.
Oh, nice.
And they cover it. And so anyways, they're in the green room, which, you know, that's where the title comes from. Mm-hmm. And just shit goes down. Like they're locked in the green room, and it's almost kind of like this very tense negotiation. Like, if you come out, we'll let you go. We won't tell anybody about what happened.
So basically, they're being held hostage in a green room with these fans that they've offended that are pissed off that want to kill them.
Yeah.
And they're afraid they're going to be tricked or...
Yeah.
Okay.
And the neo-Nazis are led by Patrick Stewart. And the thing...
Oh, wow. So Patrick Stewart plays the neo-Nazi.
Neo-Nazi,
wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Kind of. A lot of people have praised Patrick Stewart about like his role in this movie. I just thought it was Patrick Stewart. Like, he didn't do anything special. He didn't do... like he
Patrick Stewart without superpowers.
Oh, fair enough.
Or a starship.
But I was expecting something very menacing, or something that, you know, like you see Heath Ledger movies and then you see him as the Joker, and it's like, holy shit, like, you know.
He transforms.
Yeah. I didn't get that with Patrick Stewart. He's still entertaining. It's still a great movie. But just the tenseness, like you want, like, you know.
Well, I've heard great things about it. Like it's on my must see. And it also, like, personally, having grown up in Detroit and around the punk scene, I couldn't stand those Nazi punks, like the guys that would come in with like the swastika tattoos or swastika t-shirts.
Yeah.
And they would just, I would go see bands that I loved, like the Dead Kennedys or Black Flag, back in the day. And there would always be these guys that would show up at these things, and it was just irritating.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I don't miss about Detroit are the Nazi skinheads. Not a fan. So
yeah.
So if they're the villains in this, perfect.
Very much so.
How timely.
Yeah. Yeah. Very timely. No, it's a very stressful movie. It's entertaining. It's fast moving. Mm-hmm. Everything's great. I do think that cinematography is a little bit too dark. You can't really see what's going on. Mm-hmm. But that's happening in so many movies lately. Mm-hmm.
But did you watch it on your 32-inch TV? Maybe you could adjust the color on that.
I saw it in theaters, actually.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Cool. All right. Well, let's talk about a film that I saw that you did not. That also starts with the letter G. Gold. Gold is a film that stars Matthew McConaughey as he's a prospector that partners with a longtime friend. They find in South America a bunch of gold. And I don't want to give too much away about what happens, because the most distracting thing about the movie is Matthew McConaughey does everything he possibly can to make himself look ugly. And it's now, when beautiful actresses do this, they call it brave. He just looks dumb. Mm-hmm. He's got like this tooth that sticks out, a big gut. He's balding. It was like Matthew McConaughey said, "Give me it all. What are all the things you could do to make me ugly?" The thing is this, it distracted from the story because the story is actually really compelling. You know, he gets the attention of Wall Street. They go, they get on the New York Stock Exchange.
It was based on a true story.
Yeah. Go on the New York Stock Exchange. He has this meteoric rise. Of course, there's the inevitable fall. I don't want to reveal the details of that, but it really is this character study, and the detail. It's so I have never seen it so distracting. I mean, I like it when actors will do something where they'll maybe put in a different set of teeth, or they try to do something so that they seem like a different person.
Yeah.
That I love, but it's horribly distracting. You know what? They could have made the exact same movie with Matthew McConaughey just as Matthew McConaughey. They could have made him ugly inside because he definitely, there's a dark side to his personality. He has a falling out with his wife, and that doesn't go well. And you kind of see that he becomes kind of an asshole. And I almost think it would have been better had they played it where Matthew McConaughey just played himself and it was just the story, because it's incredibly distracting all the time. I mean,
does he try to do a weird accent?
No, but like he talks strange because of this weird thing with his tooth. And the thing is, because it spans this period of time, he gets worse. He gets uglier as the film goes. So it's bizarre to show the passage of time. They show the tooth comes out like a little more by the end of the movie. And I've never been more distracted by it. I mean, like it would be like without this distraction, I think I would have given the film like a better rating, like without the distraction, I think I would have probably ranked it like around a 6 or a 7. But because of this, he makes himself look ugly. It's almost like I can't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the only person that thinks this. I know this sounds awful to focus on his appearance, but it's like part of the movie.
If it distracts you, like absolutely bring it up.
Yeah, we know it's you, Matthew McConaughey. Give me a break. All right, so I'm gonna say save yourself a little bit of money. Do not see Gold, even though I do happen to be a McConaughey fan.
I'm not, so
you're not.
I have no interest in seeing it.
All right. Now, how about a film from 2017 that you saw? I'm sorry to say, the new Resident Evil.
Well, it's not the worst Resident Evil
movie. Which are guilty pleasure movies. I think they're, for the most part, garbage. But there's such a thing as good garbage, right?
Yeah.
So where does this rank?
So, like, these movies do not respect continuity. I've stuck with them. Like, I've seen all 6 of them. And a big reason why I've seen all 6 of them is because I'm a big fan of the games.
Right.
And I want, I think it's a cool concept, like tinkering with bioweapons and things going out of control. And who doesn't love zombies?
Right.
But it's just weird, like, that they don't stick to the games. Because the games are awesome, and this whole plot about, Alice, Mila Jovovich. Okay, Jovovich.
Married to the director.
Married to the director, yeah, Paul W.S. Thompson. Anderson.
Right.
Paul W.S. Anderson. The guy that did Mortal Kombat, and that was the only decent movie he ever did, and decent is really, really kind of giving it,
Right.
Yeah. It's just not a good movie. It doesn't fall in line with anything that we learned previously.
Now, what is it? Is it? I have not seen the movie.
Yeah,
but I know who made the movie.
Yeah,
Sony.
Yeah.
Does it do that thing that all movies that Sony makes, where the digital effects are so overdone, you're just not emotionally engaged, and you feel somewhat distanced?
Yeah,
because it doesn't feel real to you. There's very little practical effects, so it's all these overused digital effects that just don't feel like it's almost as bad as Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah.
No one. Okay, I know it's a Disney movie reference.
I love that movie.
But like you don't feel like they're really part of that world, right? They're not really in that world.
Yeah. The thing is, like, you have these cool creature like designs. There are cool creatures in this, but we don't get to see them because the camera is too busy focusing on the Alice character while she jumps around doing stunts that, haven't been cool since the first Matrix movie.
Oh, really? It's that bad.
It's that bad. There's no story. Like, Mila Jovovich, she shows up in old lady makeup.
Could you butcher that pronunciation?
Yes.
But
Jovovich.
Look, I screw up all the time, so I'm not one to judge. But Mila Jovovich.
Mila Jovovich.
Yes.
Okay. Mila Jovovich. I messed it up again.
Don't worry. Whatever.
Paul W.S. Anderson's wife. She's
just refer to her as that.
Yeah.
PWS Anderson's wife.
Yeah, Anderson's wife. She's the focus of it. No, none of the other characters matter. None of the other movies matter. You can go and watch it. Oh my God,
5 Easy Pieces.
Yeah.
Why did I forget that movie? That's the name of the movie. The movie I was referencing earlier with Jack Nicholson.
Oh, with Jack Nicholson.
5 Easy Pieces. Yeah. I'm an idiot. Oh my God! You know what? I have internet here. I have internet here. And by the way, we're recording this just outside the patio at my palatial estate, and so if you hear leaf blowers or neighbors, I have a crazy neighbor that lives near me that is right out of a Charles Bukowski. At some point, I'm going to convince him to be on the podcast. He is the weirdest character. He is out of a Charles Bukowski short story. I mean, just a crazy degenerate drunk who was arrested in the driveway because he was drunk with his car running.
Lovely.
So this is my insane neighbor that may interrupt the podcast at some point. We have no idea if some crazy shenanigans happen. But at some point, I'm going to try and get this guy on the podcast.
Be prepared for anything,
listeners. Yeah. So where does it, like, what's the story? Because I feel like the stories of all these Resident Evil movies are always really convoluted.
Yeah.
They're overly complicated. It's like, look, you're fighting monsters. Why does it need to be?
So the last one, Resident Evil Retribution, ended where Alice showed up and like Wesker is like, we have to fight. We're going to, kill all of Umbrella Corps. And the camera pans back and there's like this big, like apocalyptic, like battle taking place in Washington, D.C. This one picks up with exposition just being like, yeah, that battle happened. It doesn't show anything. It's just like, yeah, that battle happened.
So it didn't even resolve the cliffhanger.
It didn't resolve the cliffhanger. Movie. So the story is Alice wakes up and she has this thing on her wrist. And it's like, you have 48 hours to get to Raccoon City, the place where the original movie took place,
right,
and find the antivirus that is going to fix the world. And if you don't, everybody's going to die. It doesn't explain why everybody's going to die or how everybody's going to die. It's literally, you have 48 hours to get somewhere, go. And that's it.
It's like a video game.
Yeah. A bad video game with no plot and no great characters.
Yeah. Well, look, I you know what? I saved myself money because I wasn't even going to see that movie even before you went and saw it. So there you go.
I feel obligated. I saw the other 5. Like it's like I've come this far.
Right. That's how I felt.
And this is supposed to be the final chapter. I mean,
that's how I felt about Star Wars Episode 3. I've come this far. We need to complete the trilogy. So, all right.
Do you think they're going to make more Resident Evil movies? This is supposed to be the last one. This is the final chapter.
I don't know. It depends on how much money it makes. I don't know. Let's let the accountants decide. Look, I think that there are good reasons to make movies and there are bad reasons. And a bad reason is money from the get-go. Mm-hmm. It is just not the best reason to make a film. There need to be other reasons behind it.
Yeah.
So
I gave it a 5 out of 10. I think it's better than Underworld because this movie doesn't take itself seriously. Underworld thinks it's Shakespeare, like the new Underworld movie, like everything. So, just
I've seen a couple of those films. I think it has the same problem as just every Sony movie of just overuse of digital effects.
Yep.
That just make me hate it. Okay, so let's move on. Now this is an older film, but the reason I bring it up is because it was not nominated for any Oscars. Yet on the Oscars.org website, when the day that the Oscars were announced, Tom Hanks was nominated for Best Actor for Sully, except that he wasn't. but the website for hours listed him as an Oscar nominee in the category of Best Actor for the film Sully, which I happened to see in IMAX. And frankly, look, as a frequent traveler, I loved it. I would never watch this movie on a flight, but I thought, like, typical of, look, Tom Hanks is... I'll see a bad Tom Hanks movie. I don't care. I've loved him in one of my favorite things he's done, which is a movie no one talks about anymore, which is a movie I'll revisit, like, every once in a while, which is Cloud Atlas, which I thought was brilliant. We should get into a longer discussion about that movie at some point.
The Wachowski sisters.
The Wachowski, right? Yes. The Wachowskis and also Tommy Twyker. Is it Twyker? See, now I'm mispronouncing. Okay, we'll have to look up his Facebook and see if it has a thing you can click to pronounce his name. But I thought Cloud Atlas, which is like 6 stories, all these actors from different time periods, and Tom Hanks plays a bunch of different characters in that film. The only weakness I think the film has is I think the makeup is inconsistent. Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But Tom Hanks is an actor I've always loved. He's really good in Sully. Understated. I think that you need to see it on a big screen. It's too late now. I saw it on my 32-inch. Yeah, it's on your 32-inch TV. I just think it just did something that kind of bugged me that I have noticed so many films. There are the 3 major movies that this fall that all had the same thing, and I guarantee it's going to be overused in more films. I hope I'm not giving anything away. So you know what Sully's about, of course, is Sully Sullerson, the guy who's, the miracle on the Potomac, or was the whatever they called it at the time, where, he saved that flight. I almost think it falls in a category of movies where I feel like I'd rather see a documentary about that movie than see the movie I'm watching. Yes. Because the documentary would be better. Now, here's what the movie does. This is not going to ruin anything about your experience of the film, because we all know that he succeeded and he saved everybody. I mean, that was just reported in the news. So the movie's really about the investigation and was he responsible or negligent during it. So that's the real conflict. But at the end of the film, so here you have a narrative film that dramatizes this real person, and you have Tom Hanks playing that person, but the end of the movie, over credits, you see the real Sully meeting the survivors. So you have real footage of the real Sully at an annual gathering. They have a reunion of the survivors, and you see the real people. So you've seen the fictional story, you see the real story. At the end of the movie Lion with Dev Patel, which is also a fictionalized real life story, at the end of the movie, you see photos and video, the real person that the movie's based on. And then there's another film, Hacksaw Ridge, where you see a movie about a fictional person that is a real life story. And at the end of the movie, you see footage and photos of the real person. Did all of those people get in a room and just suddenly decide we're going to do this? This now is like a trend now. So movies.
They did in The Founder too.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. The Founder, which is a movie that we're going to talk about later in the show. The Founder, they did the same thing. So here it is, The Founder. It's like, you've seen the fictional story. Is this one of those things where...
And Hidden Figures.
They did it in Hidden Figures. So should we do... Okay, remember this. We are going to do an article about this on Film Threat, because what is it where there's a creative idea floating around in Hollywood and everybody steals from each other? Like, what was the what was the impetus of the idea? Like, who came up with it first? I don't know. But here's another trend that needs to go away. So that really bothered me about seeing this thing recur. But here's another thing. And now that I bring it up, you're going to notice it's in everything. Every movie trailer these days. Every movie trailer, every television promo for a big new TV show uses a familiar song that we've heard, but the slow, scary version of that song.
Yep.
It's everything now. Like, I cringe every time I see, is this going to be a trailer where they're going to take a movie, right? And they're going to use a song that I've heard before, and they're just going to, and it's a fanciful song, but they're going to do the slow version of the song. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
The first movie I noticed that did that was
Age of Ultron.
Was it?
It was Avengers Age of Ultron did it first they used, what was the song that they used?
I've Got No Strings.
Yeah,
From
I've
Pinocchio.
got no strings. But they do this sort of dark version of it. But since then, it is turned up literally every frickin' trailer and promo for a big TV show uses the slow down song.
Hunger Games did it in their trailers. They had Lord's Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Right.
Yeah, which is
All of
like,
it.
that's a peppy song from the 80s. And then it's like,
Anyways, all right, so
everybody.
so we got to make a list. So actually, we should remind ourselves, and maybe we should write it down.
Yeah.
That we should write an article about those two things, trends that need to die.
Yeah.
Or maybe we need to resurrect the article that we used to do on Film Thread. We used to do this article every year called the Frigid 50, which is the coldest people in Hollywood. So we, instead of like your power or your hot 100 list, we would take the 50 coldest list, and on it, we would also include trends that needed to die. I think we've got 2. So let's add those to the list. Okay, let's move on.
Sure.
The Founder.
Yes.
You and I have both seen The Founder.
I've seen it twice.
You've seen it twice. Anthony, what'd you think?
I loved it. And
did it make you want to have McDonald's?
Never again. Never again.
You know, it's so funny. I ran into Morgan Spurlock at San Diego Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and I asked him, just before we get into The Founder, I asked him, like, dude, don't you ever, like, you're going through an airport, there's a McDonald's. Like, if there's a McDonald's, I'll just have breakfast. I have breakfast at McDonald's.
Yeah,
I'll
love
have a
breakfast at
delicious breakfast sandwich from McDonald's. But don't you ever get tempted? And Morgan was, because if you got caught having McDonald's as Morgan Spurlock, you would be toast.
Yeah.
He said, absolutely not, because I never have a taste for it. I will never eat it.
Huh.
But I'm sorry, I have a hankering. Every once in a while, I will get, when I say once in a while, like once a month, they do have delicious fries.
Yeah.
It's not something I eat on a weekly basis. It's maybe once a month, and it's usually driving home. And it's a screening. Maybe I didn't get to eat, and there's McDonald's, fine.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I will say this, it did.
Don't they have a new Big Mac?
I have no idea.
There's a new Big Mac. It's like the Grand Big Mac or something. Now that I've heard this, I have to go back. But let's talk. I'm sorry. We get distracted.
No worries.
The movies about food I love. Now, The Founder. So you loved it. What exactly did you love about it? Is it Michael Keaton? What?
I think it's a story we've seen several times before, where this genius comes in and kind of
Michael
collaborates.
Keaton plays Ray Kroc, who did not invent McDonald's.
No,
he did not invent McDonald's. He's the one that. What you find out in the story is he
took it and made it a franchise.
He's a salesman that sells milkshake machines. So he sells the milkshake machines to restaurants. That's his job, and he's sort of just passionless in life, and you can see it's just sort of a dead existence for him.
His wife kind of treats him like he's kind of prone to these like fanciful, like, oh, this is an idea. I got to put all our money into it.
Quick money making scheme.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he sees McDonald's and says, this is a franchise. This is a brand. I can turn this into something. In addition to Michael Keaton's performance, which I think Michael Keaton's highly underrated.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In addition to his performance, I think that what sold me on it, when I knew I loved the movie, they take the 2 guys who invented McDonald's. They're sort of these weird idiot savant geniuses.
Yeah.
And they explain how they came up with the process. And the thing is, I think any other film would have like glossed it over. What I love about this movie is it actually explains how they came up with it, where they were drawing on a tennis court. They draw like the different stations, like here's where the fries are made, here's where the hamburgers and patties, here's where the customers order. And guy,
not just what worked, what failed. Like
exactly. So he gets up with a bullhorn on this top of this ladder, and he's watching these sort of actors that he hired kind of go through the system. Here's where you get the fries. Here's where the ketchup goes on. And like, here's how it physically functions. Like, here's the feng shui of a McDonald's kitchen and how you can make a burger from ordering it to getting it in your hand in 60 seconds. And it shows how they develop the process. And so the movie gets high praise from me just for that. It didn't gloss over the details, why it was significant, what the restaurant business was at the time, and how they had to train their customers. Because normally the kinds of restaurants that were fast food at the time were restaurants where you would pull up, like an A&W. You'd pull up, they'd order your food and bring it to you, and they put it on a tray, and you'd eat it and then return the stuff, it was very awkward. They revolutionized it at the time. They revolutionized the restaurant business. So I like that. Again, I'd love to see a documentary about this as well. But they not only is it a fascinating biopic, but it also delved into the process. And I love processes. I'm a nerd for stuff like that.
Yeah, those scenes absolutely made me think of you, because I've worked side by side with you, and you're always like, all right, we need to streamline this. We need to come up with a way.
Well, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for comparing me to the geniuses who are multi-billionaires from McDonald's. I am a lowly guy who does a movie blog and a podcast here, just trying to get by. But yeah, I do think about, because here's the thing is, it's one of those things, because I've worked in fast food.
Yeah.
I did not work at McDonald's. I worked at Burger King when I was in high school. And I worked at Burger King, and I was terrible dealing with customers. They took me off of that real quick. I made the burgers. And to this day, I still have I do like a delicious Whopper. Yeah. I think their fries are terrible, but the Whoppers are delicious. So I worked at a Burger King for a summer, and it's interesting because they develop the process. And I also feel that with anything that I do, whether it's approaching making a film or doing a podcast or doing a website, it's like, if you can streamline the processes and make those, like, eliminate as many steps as possible. Yeah. You have time to do more things. Mm-hmm. So this is why I like to do that. But yes, I do sort of nerd out for that. There was a TV show that existed, and I'm sure you can find clips on YouTube, this show. It was called Hot Dog. Now, as a little kid, I was fascinated with this show. Hot Dog showed you how things were made. So it was like, how do they make toothpaste? How do they make hot dogs? And it would show you inside factories and the processes and how things were made. So yes, the founder, I got caught up in that.
Yeah, I do feel that his kind of turn into, like, complete villain was too abrupt. Like, you get a sense that he's a decent guy that's just chasing a dream. Like,
well, that did, yeah. Like, towards the end of the movie, he has this turn where he's like sick of his belittling wife, and he's sick of, like, taking shit from the guys and the original owners of McDonald's, and he just says screw it, and just decides to do what he wants and not care what other people think.
Yeah, that's the only weak part of the movie I think I noticed. I also love how it shows, like, these shots of, like, wide open road and you know. Then all of a sudden,
it's a period
McDonald's,
film because it's set mostly in the 60s.
But it's beautiful how they
mid-50s, 60s.
Yeah, they take these shots, and then, nowadays, like, every time you drive on those roads, there's McDonald's every time, and it sets that up. So
I guarantee that when they shot that stuff, they had to remove things. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of what's interesting is you begin to find out there's so much that's done with computer graphics in modern films today. They have nothing to do with adding special effects. It's about removing things so you can actually set something in that period, right?
Yeah, I just think that was kind of like a little commentary on, like, how it was back then, how it is now, where, before McDonald's, there was just beauty and everything like that. And McDonald's made everything corporate, everything stuffy, and everything.
And I'm sure the cowboys thought before the 50s. All right, let's move on. A couple more films to talk about before our introductory segment for DVDuesday. Neon Demon. This is why don't you take it away, Anthony? We both saw Neon Demon.
Yeah. It's very stylistically, it's a stylish film. It's a lot like Drive, where the plot is simple. There's not much to it. You don't get to know the characters very well. You don't get to know anything about their life outside of what happens in the movie. It's gorgeous to look at. It's just a crappy movie, though.
Well, okay, you can't just say it's a crappy movie. Why don't you tell me why? What works about it? What doesn't work about it? Why didn't it work for you? You can't just say it's crappy.
I know nothing about any of the characters.
Well, it's about the world of modeling.
Yeah.
It's about the world of modeling. And the thing is, it's one of those things where it looks like a music video from the 80s. Yeah. Where it's like borderline, like, if their clothes were off, this would be porn, right? But it's not. It's beautifully shot.
But music videos from the 80s were like 3 minutes long. This is an hour-and-a-half movie.
Right.
There's nothing that happens.
Yeah, it really is kind of mundane.
Until, like, the last,
and it's from the director of Drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something happened.
And it has the same kind of music and everything like that, which the music was cool.
I just thought it would be, for me, I thought it would be, visual feast. Yes. Interesting world. No story.
Yeah.
No story to speak. No story that really is engaging.
And the story that was there, it was hard to figure out. It was hard to figure out what was happening. Like I had to go and like read on IMDb, like actually what was happening, because all this stuff is happening on the screen and you can't really follow it.
You know what we should have done?
Huh?
You know what we should have done?
My voice just cracked.
What? What should we have done? Huh? You know what we should have done is we should have hired a model to review the movie.
Yeah.
We can still do that. Like we should get a model to review the film.
Yeah.
Because we did this thing back in the old Film Threat print magazine where we would hire people that were experts in their field to review a film if there was some expertise. For example, this is going to sound crazy, but the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston from 1968, I hired a dominatrix to review that film because if you watch the movie, it's like a fetish BDSM Marquis de Sade novel, like right there where you've got
cages,
like
people being whipped
in cages. You've got, Charlton Heston's put on a leather collar. He's thrown into a cage, forced to have sex with this mute woman. They're like, he's stripped naked in front of this panel and judged. He's tied up in just sort of bizarre ways. Dr. Zaius is tied to a rock by Charlton Heston's character, Taylor, but in a way that's so contorted, like he just could have tied him up.
Yeah.
Like it's bizarre. So I hired a dominatrix to review the original Planet of the Apes. Now, the weird thing is that all of that imagery is only in the first movie. Mm-hmm. All the other original Planet of the Apes movies from that period, this sort of a 5-film saga, none of those movies actually have any of that going on thematic or visually underneath the surface. Yeah. It's only the first film. So clearly the director of that movie had some weird fetish and just sort of wove it in. And if you know anything about the making of that original Planet of the Apes movies, it was supposed to be set, the actual, it was supposed to be a bit more modern. They were going to have helicopters and have like a more Roman city, like sort of a Roman society with apes, and they had vehicles and helicopters, but for budgetary reasons, they decided that's too much. Let's just make them primitive.
Yeah, let's just shoot out in the desert.
They're on horses, shootouts in the desert, and keep it simple, right? Yeah. They've got horses and guns. That's the only technology. But in any case, maybe what we need to do is we need to start a column on Film Threat where we hire experts to review films, because maybe a model would find Neon Demon brilliant.
Yeah.
But you did not.
It just went from being a story about models being jealous of each other, and then it goes completely wacky in the end with like a satanic ritual. And you know what I wanted this movie to be? I wanted this movie to be like Suspiria.
Well, I wanted it to be like a Russ Meyer movie. Where it's just like doesn't take itself too seriously. I think my big problem with Neon Demon, it takes itself very seriously, and I feel like that there's opportunity for humor, and it just because how ridiculous that world can be. When you hear the real stories of models, I have met a model. Yeah, I have heard stories. It's a crazy world. I can imagine. I feel like getting a model to review it might offer insight.
I did like Keanu Reeves in it though.
Yeah. Well, Keanu Reeves is great in everything. You just add him to everything. It's like adding a kitten photo on Facebook. It's always going to be a like. Okay, so let's end on a high note for the films we're talking about this week, and let's talk about a film you did not see that is one of my favorite movies that, I mean, it opened last year, but it's in limited release, and I believe it's going to end up on Amazon, so you'll be able to see it there, which is the film Paterson with Adam Driver. And I saw it in a theater, okay, and I think it's one of those movies that if you have the opportunity to see Paterson in a theater, you need to see it because it is so slow moving and it is very thoughtful. It's very, the tone is this sort of delightful, fanciful story of a bus driver named Paterson who lives in a city called Paterson, and he writes poetry. Now, just as someone who's, I actually loved writing as a kid, and I would write poetry for fun, right? So watching when you're watching the movie, not only do you see him trying to work out words in a poem, and then you see him the next day. Like it follows basically a week in his life and these sort of good things and bad things that happen, but it's very mundane. But it focuses on like, look, most of our lives are mundane. Where do you find the beauty in the mundane? Mm-hmm. And so as a bus driver, he's working on a poem, and, you know, he lives with his girlfriend who's sort of this crazy artist who's trying to get her career together. She wants to be a country singer, but she's baking muffins, and she has this cute dog. There's a cute dog in it, right? He's working on a poem, and then you see the words appear on the screen physically in front of you. And then you see him the next day rewrite the poem because he wants to make it better. He sees he's had time to reflect, and you see just like how mundane, normal job, which we've all had them, how that can get like just boring. Yeah. So it shows him in a given week. So you get Monday through Friday. He does his job every day, and every day the same thing happens. He wakes up, he eats breakfast, he goes to work, he gets the bus, he goes on the bus, he overhears some funny conversations. He's working on his poetry on his break, and that happens every day for 5 days, and then the weekend happens and other things occur. I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to make it sound like nothing happens in this movie, but it is so beautifully told. It's Jim Jarmusch, who I've been a fan of since Stranger Than Paradise. Which is absolutely brilliant. I don't know if Stranger Than Paradise holds up to today, but it's an expansion on Jim Jarmusch's college thesis film from NYU. Then he turned it into a feature. Mm-hmm. But Paterson, I think, is masterful. It's beautiful. You need to seek it out. It's from Amazon Studios, so I assume at some point it'll be on Amazon. But catch it in a theater if you can see it. And Adam Driver is awesome. And if you're not a fan of artsy indie movies, think of this as a prequel to Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. This is emo Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, as it were, writing poetry as an Imperial shuttle driver, working for his, I don't know. Whatever. I think of every movie with Robert Downey Jr. where he doesn't play Tony Stark as just he's undercover as Tony Stark. And it makes the movie far more interesting. Okay, having said that, so if I convince you to see Paterson...
Yeah, I wanted to see it.
If I had to rate it, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Can I just say how much I hate ratings? I hate ratings. Look, I can tell you what I think about a movie, but I've never liked ratings. I know that people kind of demand it, that they want you to give it a rating. It's 5 out of 10. It's 3 out of 4 stars.
What they want to do is they don't want to read the review. They want to scroll all the way down, just see what it is.
What does it say on Rotten Tomatoes? Who cares? You know, like do a little investigation and challenge yourself. Yeah. So, all right. But now it's time for the inaugural segment for DVDuesday. DVDuesday, 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 buy, rent, or pass. It's DVDuesday. Now it's time for DVDuesday. I'm Chris Gore, ready to tell you about DVDs that you need to check out. First up is it's a DVD box set on Blu-ray called The Roddenberry Vault. It's if you are a fan of Star Trek, the original series, or as we call it sometimes, Star Trek TOS, I cannot tell you how much of a must purchase this is. It's a multi-disc set. The Roddenberry Vault. How do I describe the Roddenberry Vault? I actually went to the panel at San Diego Comic-Con where they talked about the Roddenberry Vault. What it is they kept all of the footage that was used to make the original episodes of the Star Trek series. We're talking about with, William Shatner, DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy. And what you'll see on it and what they've edited together are clips from episodes, but it's what they call the tales of the footage, right? So they shoot the footage, they stop filming, but sometimes those guys still goof around. Now, I wouldn't call them bloopers, but it is such an insight into the process because what you're seeing are, like, I would describe it as the raw dailies for original episodes of Star Trek. In addition, there are 10 episodes that they've included of the original Star Trek series. 10 of the ones that, fans agree are some of the best ones, which I'm sure, you've heard of: The Trouble with Tribbles, Metamorphosis, episodes like that. So you'll get like, you'll get this sort of collection of best of episodes of the original Star Trek series, in addition with like these mini documentaries that are all the behind the scenes. It's the greatest. It's the greatest disc of behind the scenes features for the original Star Trek series ever produced. 3 discs, absolute must buy, and I cannot rave about it enough. Next up, Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, we have not spoken about Kubo and the Two Strings yet, but Laika Studios is doing some groundbreaking work in a world where every children's movie is the same as the next one. Is this Finding Dory, Cars 3? There's a sameness about children's animation.
Even the way they're looking now.
Yeah, exactly. What I love about Laika with Box Trolls and of course Coraline and whatnot, like these are not necessarily, it's stop motion animation. It's not for kids. I actually would argue that Kubo and the Two Strings should be PG-13 because I can't imagine anyone under 10 seeing this and not being deathly afraid. I mean, it's very, very Japanese, Asian influenced. It's what it almost feels like a foreign film. I mean that in a positive way, like a great foreign film that you're getting a glimpse into the culture. The music is beautiful. Behind the scenes on it with all the Laika stuff is great because they really reveal the process and make sure that you stay to the end credits when you watch Kubo, because they always do a little something extra for the end credits, so you cannot walk out of the theater. The extras are fantastic. Can't rave about it enough. Bye.
Hands down, that was my favorite animated movie.
It's my favorite animated movie of 2016.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hands
And the Blu-ray you must get. And I like that, like, they're really getting it down where it's like when you buy the Blu-ray, you get the Blu-ray, the DVD, and the digital HD, which I have a very large collection on Vudu. So there you go.
Love Vudu.
Last film I'm going to talk about for DVDuesday or DVDuesday is Kurt Cobain, Montage of Heck. Now, we haven't talked about this film at all. It's directed by Brett Morgan, who did the documentary The Kid Stays in the Picture, okay, which was very groundbreaking visually for its time. Now everybody overuses those After Effects, right? But how it's made, there've been a lot of documentaries about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. Yeah. This is the best one ever made.
Really?
Okay, absolutely. Here's why. It mixes modern day interviews with Courtney Love, Kurt Cobain's mother, Kurt Cobain's father, Kurt Cobain's stepmother, Kurt Cobain's sister, all the people that surrounded him, right? And they give their present day reflection of what happened with Nirvana, mixed with footage from the time, personal home movies, like shot of Kurt Cobain when he was like 3. Movies, Super 8 movies that Kurt Cobain made when he was a teenager in high school. Drawings from his notebook when he was trying to come up with the name for his band. You see a list of suggested names that he's coming up with other than Nirvana.
Nice.
It's freaking hilarious. Then what they do is Brett Morgan teams up with animators and takes Kurt Cobain's real drawings and turns them into animated real life.
That's
with
cool.
With animated moving where they use audio from Kurt Cobain telling a story. So Kurt Cobain would actually keep like a journal on audio cassette. So he tells these stories, and what he does is he animates the story. It's groundbreaking. It's incredible. Now, here's why I'm talking about the Kurt Cobain Montage of Heck film, which you have to track down. First of all, it's not on Blu-ray that I could find. I have a standard def DVD in a fake Blu-ray case. I can't find this movie to purchase digital anywhere. Like, I don't know. It's somehow like it originally premiered on HBO. It did a quick limited theatrical release and then disappeared. I don't know if this has something to do with the fact that it uses a lot of Nirvana music, which I know Courtney Love is really fickle about. So this movie came and disappeared. And I think it's one of the best rock documentaries I've ever seen. And the DVD extras are not so great. I mean, you know, there's
Did
just
they
some
talk
sort
to
of
the past
standard
members of Nirvana?
What's that?
Like,
Yes.
Like Chris Novoselic and
they talk to
Dave
Chris.
Grohl?
They don't talk to
Okay.
Dave. Dave Grohl's in it, and you see him in some interviews. They don't do a new Dave Grohl interview, but Chris is in it, and you see them now, and you see it's weird because, in fact, Chris is one of the first interviews at the beginning of the movie, and he says it was right there in front of us. He said, "Just look at the lyrics.
Yeah.
He was going to kill himself. Like it's all about I'm going to kill myself," and then he kills himself. Wow. So. Best rock documentary ever made. The DVD is just okay, but because of the strength of the movie, Kurt Cobain Montage of Heck is a buy. And I want to thank Brett Morgan for putting in the years of effort that obviously went into making that documentary. And that's our DVDuesday.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right. So, Anthony, what do we have coming up on the next episode of the Film Threat podcast?
We need to talk about director's cut.
We need to talk about director's cut. Oh my God, I showed you. Okay, yeah. So we talked about director's cut on last episode. The film by Adam Rifkin starring Penn Jillette. I asked you to look up the trailer. You saw the trailer. What do you think?
It looked unlike anything I've ever seen before. It looks funny. It looks like it's a love letter to filmmakers and people that, take existing films and kind of create their own cuts. Like very famously, the guys from that 70s show did a cut of Star Wars. Right. Like it's kind of like a cheap kind of look at it. It looks fantastic.
It's incredible. I mean, Penn Jillette is so good. And this was a labor of love for Penn Jillette for years. Yeah. I mean, he worked on it for years, multiple incarnations of the script. It was funded by Kickstarter, or it was crowdfunded. In fact, there's I saw a screening of it at the ArcLight in Hollywood, and the credits go on forever because they put all of the people who contributed to the Kickstarter got a credit on the movie. But I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel like that. You know what? I'd rather see that than 15 corporate logos at the beginning of every movie you see now is like, so-and-so presents. Yeah, so I'm really glad that you sought that out, and I hope at some point to have Adam Rifkin, the director of that film, on the Film Threat podcast. Come on the Film Threat podcast, Adam, and let's talk about director's cut. But director's cut, more than anything, I would love to see a DVD of it, because if they could do what they did with the movie, which is really groundbreaking, to the DVD and kind of make fun of DVDs and special features and just how DVD extras are put together, that would be brilliant. So I want to thank you all for listening. Anthony, where can we find you on social media?
At This Game Cheats, and that's my Twitter account.
Cool. And you can find me at that Chris Gore, and we're Film Threat on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. Tune in next week. There'll be another episode of the Film Threat podcast. But we're signing off saying,
let's get out of here.